You know that split second when your entire reality cracks like a windshield? Mine happened on a Tuesday afternoon in Glendale, right between my forgotten project proposal and my husband's mistress adjusting her bra strap. I'm Claire, 37, project manager, color-coded calendar enthusiast, and apparently the last person to know my marriage was a complete dumpster fire. I live in one of those California suburbs where everyone drives German cars they can barely afford and pretends their marriage is Instagram perfect. Spoiler alert, nobody's marriage is perfect. Some are just better at hiding the rot. That Tuesday started normal. Too normal, actually. I left for my 2 p.m. client meeting at our biggest account. The kind of presentation where you bring the full pitch deck and pray your laptop doesn't die mid-PowerPoint. Halfway to Pasadena, stuck in traffic on the 134, I realized I'd left the entire project folder on my kitchen counter. The physical backup folder, because I'm paranoid about technology failures. Classic Claire move. Except I'm the person who has 3 phone alarms for everything. I never forget anything. I turned back, annoyed at myself, mentally calculating if I could still make it on time. My street, Oakmont Drive, is one of those tree-lined suburban dreams where everyone knows everyone's business, but pretends they don't. Which is why seeing Colby's black Tesla in our driveway at 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday felt like spotting a unicorn. A unicorn that was supposed to be in San Francisco until Thursday. I slowed down. Not because I was suspicious. Okay, maybe a little suspicious. But mostly confused. Colby's work trips are sacred. He's a VP of operations at Morrison Consulting, which means he's basically married to his laptop and his critical client meetings. He'd left Monday morning with his overnight bag, kissed my forehead, and promised to bring me back those fancy chocolates from that shop near Union Square. Then I saw her. A woman stepped out of the passenger side of his Tesla. Blonde. Late 20s. Blouse wrinkled like it had been balled up and hastily smoothed out. Hair that screamed, "I just had my hands all over someone else's husband." She was adjusting her skirt when Colby scrambled out of the driver's side so fast he slammed his own hand in the door. The yelp he made was almost worth the 12 years I'd just wasted. I pulled over 2 houses down, engine still running, watching this disaster unfold like it was someone else's life. Colby was shaking his hand, probably cursing, while she, whoever she was, looked around nervously. That's when she turned toward my car. Our eyes met, and I knew that face. Della Monroe, the new executive assistant from his office. The one he'd mentioned exactly 3 times over the past year. The one who had supposedly been transferred to their San Diego office 6 months ago because she wanted to be closer to family. San Diego looks a lot like my driveway, apparently. My brain did that thing where it tries to create innocent explanations. Maybe she was in town visiting. Maybe they carpooled for an emergency work thing. Maybe I was hallucinating from too much cold brew and not enough sleep. Then Colby looked up, saw my car, and his face went through 5 stages of grief in 2 seconds. That's when I knew. You don't look that terrified when you're innocent. You look that terrified when you've been caught. I didn't confront them. Didn't scream. I sat there for 30 seconds. Engine running. Processing. Then I made a decision. I drove around the block, parked 2 streets over, and walked back. I entered through the side gate. Quietly, like a burglar in my own home, grabbed the project folder from the kitchen counter, left through the same gate. Neither of them saw me. And then I drove to that meeting like my life wasn't actively imploding. Because here's the thing about being a project manager for 12 years. You learn that emotional reactions are for after you've gathered all the data. The meeting was a blur. I smiled, nodded, took notes. The client talked about innovative solutions and synergistic partnerships, while I mentally cataloged every business trip, every late night, every, "Sorry, honey, the team needs me this weekend." I left that office with a signed contract and a heart full of pure, crystallized rage. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the Coffee Bean on Brand Boulevard and ordered the largest iced latte they had. I sat in the corner booth, the one with the view of the street where I could see everyone but nobody could really see me. And I did what I do best. I made a plan. First, I needed proof. Real proof. Not just I saw them together proof, but your lawyer will weep when they see this proof. Second, I needed allies. Because Colby wasn't stupid enough to be this sloppy unless he felt completely safe. And if he felt safe, that meant I'd been too predictable, too comfortable, too easy to deceive. My phone buzzed. Text from Colby. Hey babe, meeting's running long. Probably won't be back until late Thursday. Miss you. I stared at that message for a full minute. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated audacity of this man to lie to my face via text while his mistress's perfume was probably still lingering in his car. I typed back, no problem. Take your time. Love you. Because here's what 12 years of project management teaches you. Never show your hand until you've stacked the deck. I spent the next hour creating a new private folder on my laptop. Title, Project Colby. I started documenting everything. Every business trip in the past year. Every late night. Every time he'd been too tired for date night, but somehow had energy for a morning jog. I pulled up our credit card statements, joint account, because we were partners, and trusted each other. Oh, the irony. Charges started jumping out. Hotels in cities he'd never mentioned visiting. Restaurants in San Diego during times he claimed to be in Sacramento. A jewelry purchase from Tiffany's on our anniversary. Except I never got Tiffany's. I got dinner at Olive Garden because he said he was cutting back on expenses. Apparently, expenses didn't include his side pieces' accessories. My phone rang. Tegan Ross, my yoga and wine friend from the neighborhood. We'd met at a HOA meeting 3 years ago, bonded over our mutual hatred of the president's obsession with community beautification standards, and had been close ever since. Claire, thank God you picked up. I need emergency wine therapy. Can you meet me at my place in 20? I glanced at my laptop screen, at the spreadsheet of lies I was building. I'll be there in 15. Because if I'd learned anything in the past 3 hours, it was this. I wasn't going to survive this alone. And something in Tegan's voice told me I wasn't the only wife in Glendale having a really bad week. I grabbed my laptop, left my untouched latte on the table, and walked out into the California sunshine. Somewhere in the city, Colby was probably congratulating himself on another successful deception. Somewhere in San Diego, or actually Glendale apparently, Della was probably giggling about their close call. Neither of them knew what was coming, but they were about to find out. Tegan's house looked like every other house on Maple Grove Circle. Pristine landscaping, 2-car garage, the kind of place where problems don't exist because everyone's too busy pretending to have it all together. I knew better now. She opened the door before I could knock. Mascara streaked down her face, holding a bottle of wine that was already half empty. It was 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. Tell me you brought reinforcements, she said, pulling me inside. I brought a laptop full of evidence that my husband's been lying to me for at least a year. Does that count? She stopped mid-step, turned around, stared at me like I'd just spoken fluent Mandarin. You're Colby. Unless I have another husband I don't know about, which at this point wouldn't surprise me. We sat at her kitchen island, white marble, subway tile backsplash, the works, and I told her everything. The driveway encounter, Della Monroe, the credit card charges, the Tiffany's jewelry I never received, the San Diego lie. Tegan listened, and with every detail, her face went from sympathetic to something darker. When I finished, she refilled both our glasses and said 5 words that changed everything. Mine has one too. Apparently Grant Ross, her husband of 10 years, father to absolutely nobody because they'd also chosen careers over kids, had an assistant named Paige who'd supposedly quit 6 months ago. Except Tegan had seen Paige's car at the Glendale Galleria last week, and when she'd casually mentioned it to Grant, he'd gotten defensive, said she was seeing things and being paranoid. Classic gaslighting, trademark move of cheaters everywhere. I've been tracking his phone, Tegan admitted, pulling out her iPad. I know it's crazy, but something felt off. Look at this. She showed me a map. Little dots showing Grant's location history. Most were normal. His office in Burbank, their house, the gym. But there were clusters, recurring patterns. Every Wednesday afternoon for the past 3 months, Grant's phone pinged at the same location, a condo complex in Atwater Village. That's not where his gym is, I observed. No, it's not. We sat there, Two successful, educated women in our 30s, staring at a map of our husbands' lies. The wine wasn't helping anymore. What we needed was a strategy. "We should call Oakley," Tegan said suddenly. Oakley Sterling, the corporate attorney from our book club that never actually discussed books. She lived 3 streets over in a house that cost more than both of ours combined because she'd made partner at 35, and her husband Barrett, some financial executive, supposedly made bank. Why Oakley? Because last month at book club, she made a joke about Barrett's assistant having very specific coffee preferences, and I remember thinking it was weird how bitter she sounded. 10 minutes later, Oakley was at Tegan's door with Riley Banks, our 4th musketeer. Riley, financial analyst, yoga enthusiast, married to some tech bro named Wade for 9 years, looked confused. Tegan said emergency meeting. "Nobody's pregnant, right? Because I brought wine, not sparkling cider." "Worse," Tegan said. "Husbands." We moved to the living room. I went first, laying out everything about Colby and Della. Tegan followed with Grant and Paige. Then we looked at Oakley. She didn't cry. Didn't even look surprised. She just opened her Birkin bag, pulled out a folder, and dropped it on the coffee table. "Barrett and his assistant Simone, 6 months. I've had a PI on him for 2 weeks. The folder was thick. Photos, bank statements, hotel receipts, text message logs that would make a sailor blush, if we were allowed to quote them, which we absolutely aren't because YouTube has standards. "Jesus," Riley whispered. Then she went pale. "Wait, Wade's assistant Marnie said she was moving to Portland in July." We all looked at her. "But I saw her Instagram last week. She was at Descanso Gardens, which is definitely not Portland. 4 wives, 4 husbands, 4 assistants who'd supposedly left but clearly hadn't. The odds of this being coincidence were approximately the same as winning the lottery while being struck by lightning during a shark attack. "They're running a playbook," Oakley said, her lawyer brain kicking in. "This is coordinated. They tell us the assistants transferred or quit, then continue the affairs without the guilt of lying about who they're spending time with." "So when Colby says he's working late with the team, he actually is," I added. "Just not the team I think. And when Grant says he has Wednesday client meetings," Tegan continued, "he technically has meetings, just horizontal ones." Riley made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "Wade told me Marnie was irreplaceable at the office. Turns out he meant it literally." We sat in silence, processing. 4 marriages, 46 combined years, all built on the same foundation of lies. "We could confront them individually," Riley suggested half-heartedly. "And get gaslit individually," Oakley countered. "No. If they coordinated their deception, we coordinate our response." That's when Tegan smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just figured out how to burn down the world and make it look like an accident. "My cousin Forrest manages the Castaway. You know that restaurant in Burbank with the view?" I knew it. Colby and I had celebrated our 5th anniversary there, back when I thought we were happy, back when I was an idiot. "He owes me a favor," Tegan continued. "Big favor. I introduced him to his wife, and they have a private event room with AV equipment." Oakley caught on first. Her eyes widened. "You're thinking what I'm thinking." "A dinner party," Tegan said. "Just the 8 of us. We tell the husbands it's a couple's celebration. Friendship, community, whatever. We get them in that room, lock the door, and show them exactly what we found." "Public humiliation," Riley breathed. "Controlled environment," Oakley corrected. "No escape, no individual gaslighting. They face everything together, with witnesses." I thought about Colby's face that afternoon. The panic, the guilt, the calculation of how to lie his way out. "And then?" I asked. Oakley smiled. It was sharper than Tegan's. "And then we give them a choice. Clean divorces with fair splits, or we make everything public. Their bosses, their families, their precious professional reputations. Barrett's firm has a strict ethics policy about workplace relationships," Oakley added, "especially with subordinates. He'd lose his position." "Morrison Consulting too," I confirmed. "Colby could kiss that VP title goodbye." "Grant's company is family-owned," Tegan said. "His father-in-law would actually kill him." Wade's in tech, Riley added. They love firing people for less. We looked at each other. Four women who'd met at various suburban events, book clubs, yoga classes, HOA meetings, suddenly united by the world's most depressing common denominator. We need evidence, Oakley said, slipping into lawyer mode. Solid, irrefutable evidence. Photos, messages, financial records. Everything. I've already started a file, I said, opening my laptop. I have Grant's location history, Tegan offered. I have Barrett's entire affair documented by a professional, Oakley added. Riley looked panicked. I just have Instagram posts and a gut feeling. That's what we have until Saturday, Oakley decided. Riley, you focus on Wade's patterns. Credit cards, phone records, anything you can access legally. The rest of us compile everything we have. Saturday, October 26th, we have dinner at the Castaway. That's 11 days to prepare, I calculated. Think we can pull this together? Oakley looked at each of us in turn. Ladies, we're a project manager, a marketing director, a corporate attorney, and a financial analyst. We've organized corporate events, negotiated million-dollar deals, and managed impossible deadlines. 4 cheating husbands should be a walk in the park. Tegan raised her wine glass. To the Glendale Wives Club. We clinked glasses, and I felt something shift. The hurt was still there. The betrayal still burned. But underneath it, something colder and more focused was taking shape. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's a dish best served with PowerPoint presentations and airtight evidence. The meeting ended at 7. I drove home to my empty house, Colby still in San Francisco, and opened my laptop. Project Colby was about to become Project Reckoning, and I had 11 days to build the case that would destroy 4 lying husbands and their career-climbing mistresses. I smiled at my screen. It wasn't a happy smile, but it was a satisfied one. The 11 days until the dinner turned me into someone I didn't recognize. And honestly, I liked her better than the old Claire. Wednesday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m., not because I couldn't sleep, but because I had work to do. Real work. The kind that actually mattered. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and dove into Project Reckoning like it was the most important client pitch of my life. Because it was. First order of business. Colby's digital footprint. We'd always had joint access to our accounts. Banking, credit cards, even cloud storage. Because we trusted each other and had nothing to hide. The irony could have killed a weaker woman. I started with the credit cards. Turns out, Colby had been remarkably consistent. Every 2 weeks, there was a charge at the Beverly Hilton. Same day, same amount. $247. Hotel room rate, I confirmed after a quick Google search. Not their cheapest room, but not their penthouse either. Just expensive enough to feel special, affordable enough to not raise red flags on our statements. Except I was looking at flags now. Bright red ones. Everywhere. There were charges at restaurants I'd never been to. Jewelry stores where I'd never received gifts. A lingerie boutique in West Hollywood that definitely hadn't contributed to my wardrobe. Each purchase felt like a paper cut. Small individually, but collectively bleeding me out. I documented everything in a spreadsheet. Date, location, amount, probable purpose. By noon Wednesday, I had 6 months of evidence. By Thursday evening, I'd gone back a full year. The hotel charges told the real story. Every other Tuesday for the past 12 months. That's 26 visits. 26 times Colby had checked into the Beverly Hilton with someone who wasn't his wife. 26 times he'd come home and kissed me like nothing had happened. $6,422 of our joint money spent on betrayal. My phone buzzed constantly with updates from the group chat we'd started. We'd named it Book Club in case anyone saw our screens. Plausible deniability and all that. Tegan had gotten into Grant's email. Password was their old dog's name because men are predictable. And found a trail of messages with Paige that were professionally inappropriate at best and legally problematic at worst. Lots of working late coordination that aligned suspiciously with his Wednesday location pings. Oakley's private investigator had delivered a report that was basically a masterclass in infidelity. Photos of Barrett and Simone entering hotels. Receipts from weekend golf trips that included charges at Victoria's Secret and couples spa treatments. The PI had even recorded a conversation outside a restaurant where Barrett told Simone he'd handle his marriage soon. Handle. Like I was a problem to be managed instead of a human being he'd promised forever to. Riley was struggling. Wade was better at covering his tracks, or maybe just less frequent about seeing Marnie. But on Friday, she found something that broke the case wide open. A lease agreement. Wade had co-signed for an apartment in Silver Lake. The other name on the lease? Marnie Preston. He'd literally set his mistress up in an apartment. With documentation. Because apparently cheaters really aren't that bright. Saturday afternoon, the four of us met at Oakley's house. Her husband Barrett was conveniently away on a business trip. Quotes very much intended. We spread our evidence across her dining room table like the world's most depressing art installation. This is enough, Oakley said, reviewing everything with her lawyer eyes. More than enough. Any one of these cases could survive a divorce proceeding. Together, this is airtight. So, we just need to decide how we want to present it, Tegan added. That's when Riley surprised us all. Quiet Riley, who'd spent the past week looking like she might cry at any moment, pulled out her laptop and said, I made a presentation. We stared at her. What? I'm in finance. I make presentations. It's literally my job. She opened the file. The title slide appeared. The Glendale Files. A documentary in 4 acts. It was perfect. Clean design. Professional layout. The kind of presentation you'd show at a board meeting, except instead of quarterly projections, it was exposing 4 men's complete moral bankruptcy. Each act focused on one marriage. Photos, timeline graphics, financial data, text message excerpts, the appropriate ones anyway. Riley had even added subtle background music cues. This is brilliant, I breathed. This is admissible in court, Oakley confirmed. This is going to destroy them, Tegan said with deep satisfaction. We spent the next 3 hours rehearsing. Each of us would present our own section, 5 minutes maximum, no emotional outbursts, just cold hard facts delivered with devastating calm. Oakley would handle the legal framework at the end, outlining their options with crystal clarity. Monday, I called Forrest at the Castaway. Tegan had prepped him, but I wanted to confirm details personally. So, you want the Skyview room for 8 people next Saturday evening, he confirmed. And you need the AV system set up, doors that can be secured from inside, and the charges split across 4 specific credit cards. They're corporate cards, yes. Can you do that? For what Tegan told me these guys did, I can absolutely do that. I'll even make sure the bar is stocked with their favorite drinks. Might as well make them comfortable before you ruin their lives. I liked Forrest. He understood the assignment. Tuesday through Thursday was phase 2. Selling the lie. We needed our husbands to show up enthusiastically, unsuspecting, preferably smug. I texted Colby Tuesday morning. Hey, the girls and I want to do a couple's dinner Saturday. Celebration thing. You free? He responded within minutes. Sounds good. Where? The Castaway. Tegan's cousin is managing. Got us a private room. Perfect. Miss you, babe. I stared at those 3 words. Miss you. From the man who was currently lying about his location while probably sitting across from his mistress. The audacity was almost impressive. The other wives reported similar easy acceptances. Our husbands suspected nothing. Why would they? We were the good wives. The understanding ones. The ones who believed their lies because it was easier than facing the truth. They'd mistaken our kindness for stupidity. Classic error. Friday afternoon, Oakley called an emergency meeting. We need to discuss what happens after. The presentation is the reveal, but we need to control the aftermath. We gathered at a coffee shop in Pasadena, far enough from Glendale to avoid anyone we knew. They're going to try to leave, Oakley continued. Get defensive. Maybe aggressive. Forrest said he can handle that, Tegan offered. Ex-Marine. He'll keep the door secured until we're done. And then? Riley asked. Then I give them the choice, Oakley said. Clean divorces with equitable splits, or we take this public. Their employers, their families, social media if necessary. Will they go for it? I asked. Oakley smiled grimly. Barrett's firm fires executives for ethics violations. Workplace relationships with subordinates violate their code of conduct. He'll lose his position. Grant's father-in-law owns his company. Family reputation is everything. Wade's tech company has zero-tolerance policies. And Colby's Morrison Consulting has that clause about professional conduct. She paused. They'll take the deal, because the alternative is career suicide. What about the assistants? Riley asked quietly. We'd been so focused on our husbands, we'd almost forgotten the other women. Almost. Della, Paige, Simone, and Marnie made their choices, I said, surprised by how cold my voice sounded. They knowingly pursued married men. They participated in deception. I'm not interested in destroying them. That's not our goal. But I'm also not interested in protecting them. Agreed, Tegan said. Our target is our husbands. If there's collateral damage, that's on them for being collateral. We finalized the plan. Saturday, October 26th, 7 p.m. We'd arrive early to set up. Our husbands would arrive at 7:30, expecting a celebration. What they'd get instead was a reckoning. Friday night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went through my wedding photos. Not because I was sentimental, I was way past that, but because I wanted to remember who I'd been 12 years ago. That Claire had been 25, optimistic, trusting. She'd believed in forever and partnership and choosing each other every day. That Claire was gone, and I didn't miss her. The woman staring back at me from my laptop screen, the one who'd built an airtight case, coordinated a strategic revenge plot, and felt absolutely nothing but cold satisfaction. She was the one I needed to be. Saturday morning, I woke up calm. Not happy, not sad, just focused. I put on my favorite dress, the black one that Colby always said made me look powerful. I did my makeup carefully. Professional, polished, untouchable. My phone showed a text from Colby. Looking forward to tonight. Love you. I typed back, me too. It'll be unforgettable. Send. Because it would be unforgettable. Just not for the reasons he thought. At 6 p.m., I grabbed my laptop, presentation loaded and ready, and headed to my car. The evening air was crisp. Typical California October. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful. And somewhere in Glendale, 4 men had no idea their perfectly constructed lies were about to collapse. I smiled at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Game time. The Castaway sits on a hill in Burbank with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the San Fernando Valley. On a clear October evening, you can see from downtown Los Angeles to the mountains. It's the kind of place where people celebrate promotions, anniversaries, life milestones. Tonight, we were celebrating the end of 4 marriages. I arrived at 6:15. Tegan was already there with Forrest, testing the projector. Riley was setting up her laptop, hands shaking slightly. Oakley walked in at 6:20, carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than my car payment. Everyone clear on their parts? Oakley asked. We nodded. We'd rehearsed this enough times that I could recite Tegan's section backward. Remember, Oakley continued, emotion is the enemy. We present facts. We stay calm. We give them no ammunition to claim we're being hysterical or irrational. Gaslight proof, Tegan added. Exactly. Forrest dimmed the light slightly, adjusted the projection screen, then positioned himself near the door. He was 6'3", 230 pounds of Marine Corps discipline. If our husbands tried to leave early, they'd have to go through him. Good luck with that. At 7:25, my phone buzzed. Colby. Parking now. See you in a sec. I showed the message to the others. Riley looked like she might throw up. Tegan cracked her knuckles. Oakley's expression didn't change at all, which was somehow more terrifying. Positions, Oakley said quietly. We took our seats at the long table, positioning ourselves so our husbands would sit across from us. The projector displayed a neutral welcome screen. An evening of truth. Subtle. Threatening. Perfect. The door opened. Our husbands walked in together, laughing about something. They looked relaxed, happy, completely oblivious. Colby kissed my cheek. This place looks amazing. Great choice, babe. I smiled. didn't say anything. Just gestured to his seat. Grant, Barrett, and Wade filed in, greeting their wives with similar affection. The cognitive dissonance was almost funny. These men genuinely believed they were getting away with everything. Once everyone was seated, Forrest closed the door. The click of the lock was quiet but definitive. Barrett noticed first. "Hey, did that door just—" "Welcome, gentlemen," Oakley interrupted, standing. "Thank you for joining us this evening. We promise this will be a dinner you'll never forget." Her tone was pleasant, professional, the kind of voice she probably used in depositions. Colby glanced at me, confused. I kept my expression neutral. "We've prepared a presentation," Oakley continued, nodding to Riley. "Please, hold all questions until the end." The lights dimmed further. The projector screen changed. The Glendale Files, a documentary in 4 acts. I watched Colby's face, watched the confusion shift to concern, then to dawning horror as the title slide lingered. "Act 1, Riley announced, her voice steadier than I expected. "Claire and Colby Whitman." My section opened with our wedding photo. 12 years ago, full of hope and promises. Then it dissolved into a timeline. I stood, laser pointer in hand, and began. October 15th, 2:30 p.m. Subject observed exiting vehicle with female companion, later identified as Della Monroe. Executive assistant previously reported as transferred to San Diego office 6 months prior. I clicked to the next slide. Photos. The ones I'd taken from my car that Tuesday afternoon. Colby's face went white. "Financial analysis reveals recurring hotel charges. The Beverly Hilton. Every other Tuesday for the past 12 months. $247 per visit. That's 26 visits. Total expenditure from joint account, $6,422. Click, spreadsheet, color-coded, devastating. Additional expenditures include jewelry purchases, none received by spouse, dinner reservations, none attended by spouse, and lingerie purchases from West Hollywood Boutique, again, none received by spouse." I looked directly at Colby. "Unless you've developed a sudden interest in women's undergarments for yourself, in which case we have bigger conversations to have." Tegan snorted. Even in the tension, the absurdity landed. I clicked through 6 more slides, each one a nail in the coffin. Bank statements, text message timestamps that contradicted his reported locations, credit card receipts from restaurants in cities he'd never mentioned visiting. Conclusion. Subject Colby Whitman engaged in extramarital relationship for minimum 12 months, utilizing joint funds, and constructing elaborate deception, including false business trips and fabricated personnel transfers. I sat down. My hands were steady. My voice hadn't wavered once. Colby looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "Claire, I can explain—" "No talking during the presentation," Oakley cut in. Act 2. Tegan stood, her section focused on Grant and Page, location data, email correspondence, Wednesday afternoon patterns that aligned perfectly with the Atwater Village condo visits. She'd even pulled property records showing Page's name on a lease for that exact address. Grant tried to interrupt 3 times. Forrest took 1 step toward the table, and Grant went silent. Riley presented Act 3. Wade and Marnie. The co-signed apartment lease was the centerpiece, but she'd also found Venmo transactions, Wade sending Marnie money with hearts and kissy face emojis. For a tech executive, Wade had shockingly poor operational security. Wade actually tried to stand up and leave. Forrest didn't move, just crossed his arms. Wade sat back down. Finally, Oakley presented Act 4. Barrett and Simone. Her section was twice as long as ours because she'd hired a professional. Photos of them entering hotels. Recorded conversations. A receipt from a jewelry store where Barrett had purchased a bracelet identical to one Oakley owned, except hers had been an anniversary gift 2 years ago. "Apparently Barrett believes in brand consistency," Oakley said dryly. "Why develop original romantic gestures when you can simply duplicate them?" When the presentation ended, the silence was absolute. Our husbands sat frozen, faces ranging from pale to green. The evidence was irrefutable, airtight, devastating. Oakley remained standing. "Gentlemen, you have a choice to make. Option A. We proceed with clean, equitable divorces. 50-50 asset splits. No fault filings. Minimal publicity. She paused, letting that sink in. Option B. We take this presentation public. Your employers receive copies. Morrison Consulting's Ethics Board, Grant's father-in-law, Wade's HR department, and Barrett's firm partners all get detailed reports of workplace relationships with subordinates, misuse of company resources, and conduct violations. Barrett started to speak. Oakley held up one hand. Morrison Consulting terminates for ethics violations. Your firm, Barrett, has explicit policies about workplace relationships. Grant, your father-in-law built his company on family values and reputation. Wade, your tech company's harassment policies cover power dynamic relationships. She smiled. It wasn't warm. You'll lose your positions, your professional reputations, possibly face legal consequences for misuse of corporate resources. And then we'll still get our divorces. Except the asset split will favor us significantly because we'll argue marital misconduct. This is blackmail, Wade finally said. This is consequences, Oakley corrected. You had choices. You chose deception. We're simply presenting you with new choices, better ones than you gave us. Colby looked at me. Really looked at me. Claire, please, we can work through this. Counseling. I'll end it. I'll do anything. For a second, just a second, I saw the man I'd married, the one who'd promised forever. Then I remembered Della adjusting her clothes in our driveway. No, I said simply. But you spent 12 months lying to me. 12 months using our money to fund your affair. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied. You don't get to work through that. You get option A or option B. Choose. The four men looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Maybe solidarity in their shared humiliation. Maybe just recognition that they had no leverage. Option A, Barrett finally said. The others nodded agreement. Smart choice, Oakley said. She opened her portfolio and pulled out 4 document sets. These are preliminary divorce agreements, fair splits, no fault clauses. You have 72 hours to review with your own attorneys. We reconvene Wednesday to finalize. She slid the documents across the table. One more thing, Tegan added. The assistants, Della, Paige, Simone, and Marnie. We're not interested in destroying them. But if any of them remain employed in your offices after next week, we reconsider option B. Clear? 4 silent nods. Excellent, Oakley said. Forrest, you can unlock the door now. Forrest stepped aside. Our husbands stood slowly, grabbing the documents like they were ticking bombs. They filed out without another word. The door closed behind them. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Riley started laughing. Not hysterical laughter. The kind of laughter that comes from relief and disbelief and the sheer absurdity of what we'd just pulled off. Tegan joined in. Then me. Even Oakley cracked a smile. Did we really just do that? Riley asked. We absolutely did, I confirmed. Forrest reappeared with a bottle of champagne. Courtesy of the house. And the dinner bill just got charged to their corporate cards. Enjoy, ladies. We toasted to evidence, to friendship, to the end of lies, and to the beginning of whatever came next. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my newly redecorated living room, the one that's finally mine, legally and completely, and I can honestly say I've never been happier. The divorce is finalized in December, right before Christmas. Turns out when you have airtight evidence and motivated parties, the legal system moves remarkably fast. Colby signed everything without contest. So did Grant, Barrett, and Wade. Funny how quickly men cooperate when their careers hang in the balance. The house became mine in the settlement. Colby kept his Tesla and his bruised ego. I got the equity, the furniture, and the profound satisfaction of changing every single lock. First thing I did was repaint the bedroom. Goodbye sad beige, hello deep emerald green. The room where he'd lied to me for months deserved a complete transformation. So did I. Morrison Consulting quietly reassigned Colby to their Sacramento office. Not a promotion. Della Monroe resigned 2 days after our castaway dinner. or was encouraged to resign, depending on who you ask. Either way, she's no longer Colby's problem to manage. Last I heard through the Glendale Gossip Network, she moved back to Arizona. Phoenix's gain, I suppose. Grant lost his position at his father-in-law's company entirely. Turns out family values mean something when they're attached to a family business. He's working for a competitor now, making half his previous salary. Paige also vanished from the professional landscape. Tegan got their house too, plus Grant's vintage car collection. She sold 3 of them immediately and used the money to renovate her kitchen. Said she wanted to remove every trace of him from her space. I understand that impulse completely. Barrett's law firm didn't fire him. Partners are harder to remove. But they did strip him of his senior status and reassign his major clients. Professional humiliation in slow motion. Simone transferred to their New York office, which is either punishment or reward depending on your perspective. Oakley got a generous settlement and kept their Glendale house. Last month, she made partner at a different firm. Revenge looks good on her. Wade actually had it worst. His tech company's zero-tolerance policy wasn't just talk. They terminated him for ethics violations and the misuse of company resources to support Marnie's apartment. Marnie got fired too. Wade's working at a startup now, making a fraction of his previous salary. Riley got their house and half his stock options. She's traveling. Italy last month. Greece next week. Living her best divorced life. The 4 of us still meet monthly at the Castaway. Forrest always reserves our table, the one by the windows with the view. We call it the Glendale Wives Club, though technically we're not wives anymore. The Glendale Ex-Wives Club doesn't have the same ring to it. Word spread. It always does in the suburbs. Other women started reaching out. Quiet conversations at yoga class, carefully worded texts. Can we talk? Followed by stories remarkably similar to ours. We started offering consultations. Free advice over coffee about gathering evidence, understanding legal options, building airtight cases. We're not lawyers, well, Oakley is, but we're experienced in the specific art of strategic divorce. There's a waiting list now. Turns out Glendale has more cheating husbands than anyone suspected. Or maybe we just made it safer to stop pretending everything was fine. I ran into Colby once in January at the Whole Foods on Colorado. Awkward doesn't begin to cover it. He looked tired, older. Asked how I was doing with this painfully forced casualness. Better than ever, I told him honestly. He nodded, started to say something, then stopped. What could he say? Sorry I destroyed our marriage? Sorry I spent your money on my affair? Sorry I got caught? We're past sorry. Way past it. He walked away with his organic groceries and his guilt. I walked away with my freedom and my self-respect. I know what people expected. They expected me to fall apart, to collapse into grief and rage and dramatic displays of emotion. Some people in Glendale still look at me with pity, like I'm wounded, like I should be sadder about losing my marriage. But here's what I learned. You can't lose something that was already gone. Colby left our marriage months before I discovered the truth. I just finally caught up. The real loss would have been staying, accepting the lies, becoming smaller and quieter to accommodate his betrayal. That version of events would have destroyed me. This version set me free. Riley's in Europe. Tegan's dating, casually, carefully, but dating. Oakley bought a convertible. I'm taking photography classes and sleeping past 7 on weekends because I can. We're not victims. We're not bitter ex-wives dwelling on past wrongs. We're women who looked at an impossible situation and decided to handle it with intelligence, strategy, and just enough ruthlessness to make it stick. Did we ruin 4 marriages? No. 4 men did that themselves. We just refused to be collateral damage. My name is Claire Whitman, 37 years old, project manager, homeowner, member of the most effective support group in suburban California. And I learned the most important lesson of my life. Betrayal is devastating, but staying betrayed is optional. Some people collect stamps. Some collect vintage cars. We collected evidence. And then we collected our dignity and walked away. The view from the Castaway is beautiful. Endless city lights stretching to the mountains. But the view from my side of freedom is better. I'm not grateful for what Colby did. I'm not thankful for the pain or the lies or the humiliation of being deceived in my own marriage, but I'm grateful for what I discovered about myself, that I'm stronger than I thought, smarter than I gave myself credit for, more capable of protecting myself than I ever had to prove before. Colby taught me that trust is earned, not assumed, that marriage requires honesty, not just history, that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that could have happened. We don't forgive, we don't forget, but we move forward, and we take our evidence with us, just in case.